did you have a comment? Oh, thanks, Misty.
Um, yeah, so I think generally I think that it's best not to require these types of data elements. Well, obviously sometimes they're not applicable. And also it's just that the ver how useful they are is going to vary by situation. I mean, obviously that's like there's times when they're quite useful because the person has written in different languages, whatever. And then there's other times where it's like, oh yeah, just because you can put this into Google Translate and get a variant form doesn't mean that's a terribly useful label. And Anne had mentioned something about pseudonyms, and I was just wondering if that is handled by an alternate label or is that handled by a relationship? If it's considered a different entity, aren't you just linking to that entity and then that pseudonym form shows up there? And then finally, I just wanted to point out that like for RDA now and PCC, it doesn't like require a like variant access points for people, for example. That we see them a lot in PCC records. Sorry, in in authority records. Because catalogers know that they're useful, but they don't
Right.
do it because they're required.
So my favorite example that I've been playing with lately is Mark Twain
Yeah.
Mhm.
in this linked data ecosystem because he has in Library of Congress um, different authorities under his different pseudonyms. I forget which one's separate, and so they show up as C alsos.
Hmm.
Um, but also like, if I'm a user and I want to look up everything by Mark Twain, I don't actually care which pseudonym he wrote under, like especially if
Right.
you're a student
Mhm.
doing a research project. So this is where you get into like the system usage nature of whether you use alias,
Hmm.
pseudonym preferred label, because anything in label or alt label is going to go into the index like the same. It's going to like search them all.
Yeah.
Um, whereas, so this might be kind of an indexing question
Yeah.
for Anne. So if something is written down as a pseudonym in that other pseudonym field, is that pseudonym field also indexed in the same like name search if you're in entities and you're searching for names?
And that gets to my platform, what I was kind of thinking in my head about like how the platform would actually handle that in terms of not only searching, but like interoperability of other identity sources, like the name authority file.
I really want to jump in on this. I don't know if can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, so we did Cypress and I from WVU were at the Meridian office hours recently in this big discussion and um put a lot of thought into it. And I'm sorry, it's the wrong time of afternoon for me, so I'm just gonna jump right in and hope I get it right. Um I think the thing is that we want the pseudonym to be indexed in the main label index so it's discoverable. So if that relationship field, rather than an alias, is indexed in with the main label, then you would not need to also add pseudonym as an alias.
Yeah.
And so, however, I do know now from experience that the duplicate detection does not um, include the pseudonym field, which is correct, the relationship pseudonym. So it will create another record for someone, um, even if there is a record for their pseudonym. So that is working correctly. But I wanted to ask Anne specifically if the um, relationship for pseudonym is indexed in main entity label. And in that case, if we should in fact not enter pseudonyms as an alias, because there was a lot of discussion around.
Because then it's duplication. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's harder to remove that if somebody doesn't want to be known by their pseudonym, like they really want it to be an anonymous pen name, kind of. So is that the case? And did I frame that question at all coherently?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's super, and I think you wrote a follow-up to that effect that I
Yeah.
I realized on
I have it
Friday.
open.
Okay, I was like, I realized on Friday,
I'll
I
drop it
was
in
like,
chat.
oh yeah, I didn't get a chance to I looked at it and then didn't get a chance to write back to it yet. But I think that makes a lot of sense to I will say it does not do that now. And what this discussion, it makes a lot of sense because we don't really want to duplicate things, but we still would like to like retrieve that. So I think that's something that could be on the docket to, um, improve and add to the search.
Okay, so if it's not the case now, I can also add that to something in the community center. And I dropped it in the chat too, if anybody wants to edit it before plopping it straight in minutes. Okay, awesome. Thank you.
No, and this is great. And this is, exactly what that kind of like development question, right? Because also your comment about the duplicate check is important, right? So preferably, again, like my Mark Twain example, because it doesn't have any sensitive information about it. It's not going to be an instance where, somebody is still alive who really does not want Samuel Clemens associated with Mark Twain, right? So it's a good example to show that, like, if I put in Samuel Clemens, or I don't know, he has all these like other, I did a whole thing with this and I can't remember what they were, but he has all these other like mini pseudonyms that were found later that, once
I'm familiar.
That
I ran into one recently actually doing Meridian stuff.
Yeah, and they're not like included in the Library of Congress one because the Library of Congress, authorities were created later, and I think he's got 3 authorities under different ones of his pseudonyms. And
there's a whole set of instructions about, like, if it's not a pseudonym found in publications, then there's not a separate authority record created for it. I don't know if
that makes sense. No, I'm sure that is why. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think those rules make sense in the non-linked data environment. In the linked data environment, you want to have all of those different pseudonyms that he published under somehow associated. And I want to make sure that I'm not creating a new record for Mark Twain when I found that, there's one article that someone found that is published under, I can't even think of like a random thing. And I want to make sure that if I go to type that in, that the duplicate checker finds the pseudonym in his existing record. So I'm not creating a new one. So it would be really helpful if the pseudonyms were somehow integrated into that duplicate checker.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's, I think we see this quite a bit with some of the more prolific authors, that there are these, especially like letters or magazine publications and things like that, where they've written chapters or articles or essays or whatever. And they sometimes, especially earlier in their career, they have different names, or they decide later on they want to do something different and they, come up with a whole new alias. So yeah, I think this is a really interesting idea, though. It's like, are we looking at just what is kind of commercially published and sort of available sort of more publicly that we know of, or also these, pseudonyms and different aliases that may represent smaller publications and things like that? So
I want to emphasize, though, right now, the duplicate check does not pick up pseudonyms.
Yeah.
The pseudonym is not in so I'm hoping that it can be added to that index for searching, for discovery, but left out if policy is to create the 2 separate records for the different names for a pseudonym. Another thing I want to mention about that too, which came up in the Meridian office hours, which may be kind of niche, is part of the reasoning for keeping separate records, though RDA sort of considers an entity to be the person, so it might map that as one record, right? But keeping it as 2 separate records, not just privacy, but because then you can associate specific data with the pseudonym as opposed to the person. So if the pseudonym actually has its own birthday for some reason, but to me, like, that is actually, super, that has like great potential in discovery if you wanted to have certain aspects of expertise represented, associated with one identity and not another. Anyhow, okay, so there's my comment.
I have to find this. I was just looking at one of these the other day, and I can't remember where there was somebody who created, was when I was looking into like AI publishing and rules for AI publishing. And there was somebody who had created an AI alter ego, right? And published books under that AI alter ego, and that AI avatar, whatever, had its own birthday and its own this and that. But you want to make sure that, and I think the way it was handled in the new like AI rules from PCC is they were saying that person would have been the actual person associated with that avatar would be an added author, and they would have different records. In a linked data environment like entities, what is most important is that there is some space to put that relationship. Right? Let me see if I can give an example.
So PDQ Bach is so there's this composer, Peter Kelly or something. I don't know how to say his name, but like he's famous for this like PDQ Bach like alternate identity because like it has like a whole fictional biography with it. So Peter, what's his face, composes both under his name and under PDQ Bach's name. And if you go to PDQ Bach, like there's like a fictional biography that says like he lived 1742 to 1807, which Peter died in 2024. And then it's like it says he's like related to, all the Bach family of composers. And of course, the problem is there's competing principles for identification and discovery here because if you know that he is not a member, like if you know who all the Bach family people are and you see something like this, then this becomes very confusing because it's like, well, I know he's not a member of the Bach family. And so then there's also that, but if you don't know he's not a member of the Bach family, then you might like be thinking to discover him through the Bach family. So like it's not really perfect either way is it for users because either way it can cause confusion for people. Yeah.
So I do want for this group to keep in mind that although I, assume everyone here is, an RDA knowing cataloger of some kind, and that the sort of RDA and before it AACR2 rules were developed in a sort of binary, non-linking world, right?
Yep.
In a linked data environment, we want to keep in mind all the very different way that this data will likely be used. And in great part, one of the ways, I don't know how this will end up looking for OCLC in Meridian and who's going to, if the AI companies are going to be harvesting this, but knowledge graphs have a lot of power to influence like AI answers.
Oh yeah. Knowledge graphs
In
are so interesting with this. Yeah.
Yeah, so you want to we always want to highlight those relationships, but be careful with them, right? Because
Mhm.
if I am a student and I am looking up, again, my example recently has been Mark Twain, and I want to be like, pull up all information by Mark Twain, and I'm asking in natural language search AI
Mhm.
bot, that AI bot will be influenced by all of the links and link data, and it'll start like pulling it up based
Mhm.
on that. And so as long as I've got um, URIs and link data relationships for all of his different pseudonyms, in theory, that natural language search should pull those up as well and mention those relationships, right? So the question is, does this change how we handle this information and these relationships, right?
Well, when I think about how like an LC name authority file works, um, I think even having like the separate identity files for each pseudonym, I mean, they could be collapsed. Again, it would be that linked data piece of it,
Mhm.
or a data mapping that would collapse all of those. So there would have to be some linking between them. So you could say, using Python or whatever, collapse all of these to point to that one LC name authority file that's going to include all of them. So I think that's sort of my platform system
Yeah.
technology question, is like, I can definitely see how this could work. It's just like, is that thinking about the interoperability piece of it, like, is that the direction? Because I do think it makes more sense to, from like a data standpoint, to keep them as discrete data points and then link between them for exactly what you're talking about, knowledge graphs, and then sort of building out for search in the future. It does make sense to keep them as discrete, well, not even records, kind of going to the future, but that idea.
Well, but it also leads me to this question of like, you know, if we as catalogers want to know the relationship between a person, the ones that
Yeah,
come up as very sensitive is someone who's changed genders and doesn't
yeah,
want their previous name associated with their publisher name. In that case, you actually would want totally separate authorities for those two names and actually
yeah,
not put in a URI to link the
yeah.
two, but maybe put it, just in a cataloger to cataloger notes field.
Yeah, and
Um,
I think that's an interesting question too, because there's a whole kind of movement called the right to be forgotten, and it's
right. Yeah,
the yeah, the right to have control over especially your identity and what information is collected about
yeah,
you and things like that. So I think that, and we've seen this with RDA and NICO work as well, that like when I first was trained in NICO, we didn't always reach out to like the author to try to get more information from them. And I think that's become much more standard part of practice of creating these identities, is that you do reach out a lot of times to the author to kind of make sure things are recorded the way that the author wants them to, beyond what's represented in the publication. So yeah, it's a really interesting piece of it. Can we keep information private? And would that cataloger to cataloger? And if we do that, does that mean we can also keep it out of AI?
yeah.
Because that would be the other thing, is if we build something and then AI is still using that data to expose that person's change of name. And it could also be
So,
someone who, I was a victim of a crime. It could be that as well too. My records were sealed for years because of that. So, it can be that situation too, where it's
oh,
actually,
wow.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It can be that situation as well. Yeah, I wasn't
Yeah.
even findable on the internet for a long time because of that. But
Oh,
anyway,
wow.
it's there are other reasons people
Yeah.
do have for controlling their identities. So,
But there is a whole PCC committee that talks specifically about this, so we won't go too much down the weeds. Yes, and the safety issue, and again, there's I think a whole PCC committee that's talking about uh like gender identities and how
yeah,
to record those.
we've been
Um,
doing
Yeah,
a lot of good work, I think, on this for sure.
yeah,
and I noticed that um, there is a gap between library practice and the IT pro. practice
Oh,
as
sure.
far as privacy is concerned.
Absolutely.
And IT practice uses mask, mask out, identifiable,
Mhm.
they call PII,
Mm-hmm.
identifiable personal info. They use a mask to do that. And whereas the library, we try to help people differentiate person A from person B. So we have to give detailed information, which sometimes um, make that person's personal info exposed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
and this is where we've been seeing like requests to not put birth year and death
Yeah.
year and yeah.
Well, and for me, it's like even like employment. It's like whoever created my authority record at the time when I was talking, well, when I was talking to the person who created it, I said, don't, I'm looking to change jobs, so let's just not put my
Mhm.
employer in. And then somebody else did.
Oh.
But it looks like I haven't worked for 10 years because it's not been updated. So it's kind of like, you know, I think that's the other piece of it too, is how much this information is dynamic. And is it useful to have that information in there and be publicly available, or is that information being included potentially misleading or even could be harmful depending upon what it is? So it is a really interesting scenarios.
Yeah.
but for researcher, uh, we are recording the period, the research activity of that person when that person affiliated with the organization. That's why we have a period to define when the person is affiliated with the institution. Um, so even though you change jobs many times, but your publication at the time associated with the institution that you work for.
But I've
So
published since then, and those publications are in other platforms. So they're in digital repositories, institutional repositories, digital archives, things like that. So they're just not reflected. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's a
yeah,
whole different
that's
situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, it
that's
is.
incomplete
It is. It is.
incomplete
It is.
affiliations. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
a
But
different scenario.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, for
uh,
sure.
I'm sure the Wikidata group has other guidance on this for their entities, but I
Sure.
think for because those they do want those to be updated. I think
Yeah.
for OCLC entities we still want to not put it on the catalogers to keep things up to date, just have it
Yeah.
be um differentiated as needed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I especially because like it's still going to be on controlled set of catalogers and none of us has time
Sure.
to
Oh,
to
yeah.
do that update work. But definitely like in Wikidata, it's different because anybody can go in and change their
Sure.
record, update their record. Um,
And I think that's where linked data also helps too, is
yeah,
if you're linking to other data sources or like Wikidata or something else in terms of an authority record, then that can provide a more comprehensive,
yeah,
or ORCID or whatever, it can provide that more
right,
comprehensive view of a
right.
person's.
And similarly, in here, you should be, if you know it, putting in their person's ORCID ID and
Sure.
data ID, and therefore any one of those can have the full updated list. For this, we still are, I think, working on the principles like with
Yeah,
LC
for sure.
of what was needed to differentiate for cataloging. Um, but anyway, I think we have a basic consensus that Anne should go and check on the duplicate checker and see if
Yeah.
pseudonym can be included.
Yeah, in the notes document, I put it as like an action item to,
To look into that.
um,
Mhm.
you know,
Sorry, I have a
yeah. Please go on.
Actually, my actual question there was if it could be in the label index. If the pseudonym relationship could be in the label index, it is already not in duplicate checker, and that is correct, so that you will still create a record for that second name, right? But
Well,
we already know it's not in duplicate detection.
well, I would actually think we would want it not in the duplicate detection for like, that's going to be the bulk
Like the API.
bulk crisis with the API.
Yeah.
But I think it would be in when you are manually entering somebody, it would be good to have it check and have it come up and be like, hey, this name, I see it in pseudonyms as well. Do you want to be a separate record, or do you want to look at that kind of question? So maybe not an automatic rejection, but like a
In the
C also, maybe.
yeah, in the case of so the setup is I have an entity for Ann Washington and I have an entity for, I don't know, Nova Washington, my cool like cooler alter ego.
It's your AI avatar.
On Ann Washington, I've said, well, actually, I think it would be on my other one, Nova Washington. I would say, well, one of them would have the pseudonym relationship, or they would both have it. But since they're two different entities and they already exist, a search for one or the other, or the duplicate detection would detect. So if you go in to put Nova Washington, it would detect that entity. If you do Ann Washington, it would detect that entity. So in terms of duplicate detection, and if Nova Washington was an alt label for some reason, it would detect that. So Emily, can you describe to me again, like what the question mark is, or the desired behavior?
So if I look up, this is perfect. I have an example, Mark Twain and Samuel Clemens.
Yeah, let's just
I was just looking that up. Yeah.
Mark Twain, I will also get Samuel Clemens, or vice versa. I forget if I'm telling you the reverse way. I will also get Samuel Clemens, but that's only because Samuel Clemens has as an alias Mark Twain.
And that's what we want to fix in terms of the indexing.
And we would prefer that if I looked up Mark Twain, I would also get Samuel Clemens, but because Samuel Clemens is in the pseudonym relationship, i.e. that is indexed, not the alias, so that we do not have to include the alias.
Yeah, so I can show this right now. So like if I'm looking in person entities and I search Samuel Clemens, I do get Mark Twain down here, right? But if I search, I assume these are not just a bunch. Did he use all these other variants? What am I seeing here? Oh, I get it. Okay. Mark Twain does show up here, right?
But that's just because he has Samuel Clemens as there, right? Exactly. Right. But if you remove Samuel Clemens from there, I would like it to still get Mark Twain because of the pseudonym relationship field.
But this is also, if I search Mark Twain, I do not get Samuel Clemens at all.
And that is probably because Mark Twain does not have, or it's not, so Samuel Clemens does not have Mark Twain as an alias.
Not reciprocal.
However, if we indexed the pseudonym relationship, it would show up there. That's what I'm asking for in a tick.
The reason this is happening is because if you go to Mark Twain, under it says Samuel Langhorne Clemens is the given name. But if you go to Samuel Langhorne Clemens, it doesn't do the opposite. So like,
correct.
Neither, like, that's like, to me, this is not good, because like that doesn't make sense as a data element to say like that's his given name. Like it makes sense to say since it's done as a separate, since it's basically it's treating a different identity as a different person, then it makes more sense to have Samuel Clemens down under the related persons, and then like there would be some kind of way in the display to like tell people like see also
Mhm.
Samuel Clemens when they get a listing for Mark Twain. Like,
Yeah, this is a good example to play with.
yeah.
Maybe if we futz with how this should look, and then maybe we can all do our edits of Mark Twain and Samuel Clemens and what are Mark Twain's other aliases. I did a whole thing with this. Um, like how do we want to build this out? This might help guide us.
Mhm.
And this is where I'm strongly suggesting that if we want to be able to break the relationship to preserve privacy, that
Yeah.
we do not include aliases. We only
Mhm.
include the pseudonym relationship. But if we do that, we do need the pseudonym relationship indexed in the entity label so that we'll still get Mark Twain for Sam and Sam for Mark, even though we don't have that given name in there for Sam in Mark. See what I'm saying? So yeah.
Because of this is what I was saying a second ago. It's like if we really, for privacy reasons, want to break the relationship in the computer, so like search systems aren't making that knowledge graph, is we would want it to actually be mentioned in a note without a URI link of any kind. Because
Right, but then
that
if
way
it's
because then you're non-linking the link
Mhm.
data. You're unlinking the link data.
yes, and if you but it's easier to do that with one link on pseudonym relationship
Right.
than to try to pull out all of those aliases, which could be in different variant forms and different, So that's where I'm saying like yeah. And honestly, at that Meridian office hours, they did kind of kick it back to this group too. Or like,
Mhm.
well, we should probably not have aliases then. And they're like, that's for you all to decide. So hey, by the way, should we decide? We can decide that. That's why I'm making such a pitch for it today, though. Is just like this is how I think it needs to be modeled
Yeah.
in order for there to be the discoverability, but also potentially for it to be easy to break the discoverability.
Mhm.
So,
Um,
real quick, sorry, Emily. I noticed that under related persons and organizations, there's also the option for pseudonym there. So if there's the option for pseudonym under that related persons and organizations, that may cause problems if we don't break it there as well. So just bringing that up, that we might want to fix it in that section as well as fix it in the other place.
No, that's the only place that it is.
that's the
Oh,
only place
it's
I
not
was
in a
talking
check.
about.
It's not in the check mark for pseudonym. I thought there was a check box for
Oh,
it.
the checkbox is the fictional entity
Oh,
checkbox.
okay. I'm sorry. See,
No,
I
no,
should
that's
just
okay.
not even involve myself since
No,
I
no, no,
don't
no, no,
make
that's okay.
pseudonyms. Sorry, I was trying to be
Mhm.
helpful.
Oh, it's
No, no, no,
no, it's
that's helpful.
helpful. It's all helpful. I'm saying, yeah, no, and I apologize. I might sound hangry or something. Like, so it was very confusing to me too. The other part of my story was that the duplicate detection I was talking about what was for the API. So if we put the pseudonym relationship into the entity label index, so there's discoverability, but it's easily broken, we still want it not to be in the API duplicate detection. So the API will still create an entity for Sam if market exists, right? So that was just the other piece of that. Does that make sense? I'm sorry. I'll try again if it doesn't.
No, that totally makes sense. I'm thinking through how the relationships work in a knowledge graph environment. But maybe
I can write up what I'm hearing
Okay.
like from a product. Now I'm OCLC.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like I can write up what I think that I'm hearing around expectations, and then I can send that. I think I'll out to
Yeah.
sort of summarize.
Yeah.
That would be great. And
Other
use
hat back
cases. Yeah.
on.
No, and I would say some use cases to like keep in mind for this is one, um now dead authors for whom many aliases exist and privacy is not so much a concern, but they may still have multiple authorities. That's the Mark Twain example. People for whom privacy is a big concern, and we want to have the relationship noted, but we want to have the option to have that relationship not be that relationship to be breakable should
Mhm.
privacy become a concern. And again, this is, I know the main example that's come up lately is, for people who change genders and change names with it.
So that's, sorry,
Yeah.
keep going.
Uh, anyway, this is just, if other people have better examples, please do supply them. And then, the other example, again, that I like a lot lately is like if you have an AI avatar who has a whole life story, how does that relationship
Yeah.
exist? I don't know if there are other like use case examples that people want to give.
So I just wanted to point out there's different scenarios. There's
Yeah.
where we treat these as separate identities where they're described separately, different descriptions. So that's like the pseudonym thing. Um, and then there's things where people change their name, where that's just one person's description, and you just,
Mhm.
could record those other names as alternate labels because a
Someone gets married
someone
and
gets married, but if
yeah,
somebody's I'm not sure how exactly to say this. If somebody changes their name because they believe that the gender they were assigned at birth does not reflect their gender, that is not two different identities. That's the same as like if a person changes their name for marriage, for like
right.
some kind of like religious reason, or just decides to change their name because I don't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be, it's not like we're saying that like I don't want
Right.
to imply that every one of those cases is a privacy concern. It's just the one that
Right.
seems to come up a lot
Yeah.
as,
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying like
but yeah,
I think that the question of like being of there could be there could be a reason not to provide a label, not to create a pseudonym relationship, not to provide an alternate label. Like privacy is always a potential reason for that.
yeah,
It's just it's harder to do when it's like when you've got when you've already got like two different descriptions going, one for the person, one for this one, and you've already got this relationship done, as opposed to like when it's an alternate label. I think,
yeah.
yeah,
No, I totally agree.
yeah,
I was just trying to give Anne things that would resonate with like the tech program.
yeah,
Why would you do that? Here's an example.
yeah,
Um, and not something that I think should go into our documentation in any way.
yeah,
The IT people are often like, give me an example.
yeah.
Um,
So are the two questions then how to build the relationship between pseudonym and alias to build that linking process, but then also how to break it if we need to for privacy concerns.
well, yes, and the how do we handle duplication checker?
Yeah. So
Does that
three
sound right?
questions. Three questions.
So,
Does that sound right to everybody?
Yeah.
Yay, fun. Names. And always add names in other languages. We're doing that already. We're happy with that.
Yeah.
All right. I think we have just like 9 minutes left. Is there a really quick field or another comment or another question that someone thinks they can do in 10 minutes?
With us, really? Actually, I did have a question because we're supposed to meet again in like 2, 3 weeks. So maybe we should do a vote on whether we should keep the meeting at the end of the month. I apologize because Anne and Jill, I was going to ask you about this before we met and I forgot to send out the email. So, anyhow, do we want to keep the meeting at the end of the month, everybody? Since we're all here. We good for keeping it?
I'll
Okay.
put a
Yes, works for me.
Okay. All right. I just
Thumbs-
wanted to make sure
well,
nobody was
can
upset
have
that
any
it was, you know,
objections.
too soon or anything. All
I
right.
think I at least will be at ALA and might be attending a session, but I don't know. The show can certainly go on without me, and in fact, could be very productive. So I'm
Not
happy
necessarily
to
you
keep
are.
going.
I was going to say, I don't know about that.
You are our knowledge base.
Which day
Um,
would that be?
That
Would that be
would
Friday the 26th?
I think it's
no,
Monday the
they're
29th.
Monday the
Oh, it's
no,
Monday.
we are 20 oh,
Second?
that sounds like it should be the 22nd. Is that right?
Well, Monday the 22nd is not ALA. So,
We're
Right.
not on there. I don't see us on there.
maybe it's because we were going to read you the schedule for summer.
Oh, just FYI,
Mm.
Monday the 22nd is the BibFrame update forum from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern at the Library of Congress.
Oh,
Surely it is.
they're doing an update forum. That's so exciting.
Yeah.
I don't think I saw
Really?
that.
They do one like every year in June.
I have
But
Did
I'm
they
happy
really?
you were excited.
here's the link for it.
I'm excited that they have
Oh,
time with their limited staff to do any training at all on
I don't know if
anything.
you want my link. I have a link for it, but it did my Outlook link, so it's going to be really nasty.
Mm,
I'll
is
just,
it
oh, there, it's awful looking.
let me see what works for me. What happens when I click on it? Let's see.
Otherwise, I'll forward it to you. So let me see when our next meeting is, because I thought it was in,
My memory perhaps was that we combined the May and June because we missed the May, and then June
oh,
was maybe going to be, I can't remember, for the last Monday, in which
so
case I think it was ALA. So then we might have already
I deleted it.
decided to go to July.
Okay, so I'm worried about this and I just don't remember anything. Okay, so I can schedule one for either the 22nd or 29th if everybody would like to have one. But you're right, that's why it's not on the schedule. That sounds correct. So we don't have another one until July 27th. But if we would like to meet before that, we can, and I can put one on for either the 22nd or the 29th if everybody wants to.
I'm going to put meet on the 29th in here and you can thumbs up it. Meet in July. And so if you want to meet on the 29th, thumbs up that. If you want to meet the regular July.
Okay, you put July 29th. Did you?
My
She
bad.
meant June.
Thank
We
you.
all understood that.
Wait.
Sorry,
good.
everybody. No, people didn't understand it.
Now I don't understand it.
June 29th or
Okay.
meet in July. Okay.
Okay.
Just trying to see if there are enough people that want to meet in June. a second time to hold that meeting.
I thumbsed up to that end of the month, but I'm also at ALA. I realized I thought we were talking about
Yeah.
changing the standing time, so
I see.
sorry.
No, that's okay. We can hold off. We don't have anything on the schedule now, so we can just wait until July and meet then. And if anything comes up before that, you know,
It looks like there were more votes for wait until July.
yeah, that works. Everybody's busy in the summer anyhow, so that's cool.
Well, Anne, I'll see you at ALA. You're going to have to reserve some time for
Oh,
me.
yes, yes. Anyone else that, if you're headed to ALA and you want to meet up, come. Oops, that's not my email. This is my email address. And then I have some time that I'll be at the booth. I'll
Oh,
definitely
you'll
be
be
at
at the booth. Well, then I'll be able to find you.
Yes, yes.
No hiding.
I'll be at the booth on Saturday afternoon and Sunday morning, and definitely at the OCLC community meeting on Friday. So I have some time for folks that will be there. And if
So
you're not there,
the OCLC catalog and community meeting will be Friday, June 26th at 10:30 a.m.
So I guess Kate will be
Chicago.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kate has written this enough times that Kate has memorized it.
All right. Well, thanks everyone, and I will write up what I heard. I'm going to do that right now while it's fresh, and I will send it out to the group.
Thank you,
Thank
Anne.
you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you guys.
Bye.
Bye.